I'm Alexis Christophorous. We want to take you to Monterey Park, California now, where President Biden is signing a new executive order aimed at reducing gun violence, boosting background checks, and promoting the use of red flag laws.
Biden is trying to circumvent Congress with gun control laws. Welcome to another installment of the Connecticut Gun Bench. Today's video is brought to you by P.A.N. Firearms, LLC. P.A.N. Firearms for NRA certification and multifaceted gun training. You can reach us at 203-300-6343 or use our website at www.panfirearmsllc.com. As always, be a link in the description box below. And if you like my channel and like my content and want to support my channel, you can do so with the links in the description box below. Let's talk about this. Now, back on, I'm trying to get the date here. Oops, sorry. It says 5 days ago. This is very recent because I did see the video. Joe Biden went on TV. He went down to Monterey Park, California, and made a speech where he said he's going to use executive orders to pass gun control initiatives that technically are supposed to go through Congress. Now, I'm going to go ahead and play, not the whole thing. I'm just going to play you a snippet of what he plans on doing with this executive order. So let's go ahead and watch that.
Enough. Do something. We remember and mourn today, but I'm here with you today to act. Last year, after the mass shooting in Buffalo, New York, and Uvalde, Texas, I signed into law, after being both places, a bipartisan Safer Communities Act, the most significant gun safety law in almost 30 years. That was in addition to me signing more executive actions to reduce gun violence than any of my predecessors at this point in their presidencies. Today, I'm announcing another executive order that will accelerate and intensify this work to save more lives more quickly. First, this executive order helps keep firearms out of dangerous hands, as I continue to call on Congress to require background checks for all firearm sales. And in the meantime, my executive order directs my Attorney General to take every lawful action possible to move us as close as we can to universal background checks without new legislation. It's just common sense to check whether someone is a felon, a domestic abuser, before they buy a gun. The executive order also expands public awareness campaigns about the red flag laws, which my son, before he died, Attorney General in Delaware, was a great proponent of and instituted. So more parents, teachers, police officers, health providers, and counselors know how to flag for a court that someone is exhibiting violent tendencies, threatening classmates, or experiencing suicidal thoughts that make them a danger to themselves and others, and temporarily remove that person's access to firearms. And it promotes, this executive order, safe storage for firearms, something every responsible gun owner agrees with. Second thing it does, the executive order ramps up our efforts to hold the gun industry accountable. It's the only outfit you can't sue these days. It does that by calling out for an independent government study that analyzes and exposes how gun manufacturers aggressively market firearms to civilians, especially minors, including by using military imagery. And it directs the Attorney General to publicly release alcohol, tobacco, and firearms inspection reports of firearms dealers who are cited for violation of the law.
You heard that and you saw that. Now, there's a lot I can talk about here. The fact that executive orders are not law, so I'm not sure how this is going to stand up to legal scrutiny. But what bothered me the most is once again, they're showing, or especially this administration and a majority of the elite Democrats, are showing that their agenda is more important than your life. He's in Monterey Park. Remember, he could not go, or didn't go, to Waukesha, Wisconsin after what happened there. And when questioned on that, his talking head, Jen Psaki, said he didn't go because of logistical reasons and security. But remember, he was in Buffalo 24 hours after that incident. He was in Uvalde 24 hours after that incident. And the people in Waukesha have come out publicly in the media and stated that they feel abandoned, and they are being abandoned by this administration. He hasn't even been to East Palestine, Ohio, where the people out there, their air and water is now questionable as to its safety. But he hasn't been there. He sent Pete Buttigieg out there, who just basically went on an anti-Trump tirade and did nothing and left. Understand the game. But I'm going to come over here at guns.com, and it's titled by the executive order, Universal Background Checks Without Congress. Now, universal background checks, they have never fully explained what universal background check means or how is it different or better than the NICS system. He just keeps saying, well, it's going to be background check for every firearm sales. That means transfers between two individuals, depending on the state law, of course. But I'm going to come down, and in what many conservatives and pro-gun groups paint as a chilling overreach by the White House, President Biden on Tuesday announced a new executive order aimed at guns. The rambling EO, where he rambles all the time, signed by Biden on March 14th, there it is, on, quote, on reducing gun violence and making our communities safer, is multifaceted. Once again, it's always about gun violence. They don't give a damn about you if you kill any other way. Among its whole of government approach, tenants are marching orders to the Justice Department to publicly release more inspection reports of licensed gun dealers, expand existing campaigns to promote the safe storage of firearms. Once again, I don't want the government doesn't need to tell me to do that. I don't want the government telling you how to do it. That's just common sense. We all have it, and we should really use it, but we don't want the government putting their hands into this aspect of firearms ownership. Step up the entry of ballistics data collected from crime scenes and increase efforts to encourage the use of red flag gun seizure laws. And I've spoken a lot about red flag laws. The red flag laws they're talking about is the simple accusation of. It's not proof. It's just somebody can go make an accusation against someone else. It could be legitimate, or it could also be vindictive. And then the government or the local authorities act on that and seize the person's guns, violating the Fourth Amendment. And other measures include calling on the Federal Trade Commission to issue a public report analyzing how many gun manufacturers market firearms to minors and how such manufacturers market firearms to civilians, including through the use of military imagery. This is even though only those over the age of 18 can legally purchase a firearm at retail. Further, the Pentagon is directed to use principles to further firearm and public safety practices in the acquisition of firearms, a possible reference to mandating the use of unproven so-called smart gun technology. I've also spoken on that. Specifically microstamping. The person who actually has the patent on microstamping testified in Connecticut at the last hearing and openly admitted, yeah, it's flawed. It doesn't work right. But, however, one part of the executive action has struck a strong chord with those on both sides of the national conversation on guns, more aggressively defining who is considered engaged in the business of dealing in firearms by the ATF and Justice Department. Past guidance from federal gun regulators on the topic of selling guns without a federal firearms license has proven fuzzy, with the agency noting that courts have upheld convictions for dealing without a license when as few as 2 firearms were sold or when only 1 or 2 transactions took place. As I said, the personal transfer, you transfer your gun to a friend of yours who, depending on state law, of course. Quote, first, this executive order helps keep firearms out of dangerous hands, which it can't. We see the criminality is escalating in this country. But as I continue to call on Congress to require background checks for all firearm sales, said Biden, and in the meantime, my executive order directs my attorney general to take every lawful action possible to move us as close as we can to universal background checks without new legislation. Well, you need new legislation. You have to do it through Congress. But Speaking of prepared remarks, while at the White House, Justice Department and ATF were quiet as to what exactly are the new qualifiers for crossing the, quote, engaged in the business of dealing in firearms threshold. Here we go. Everytown, a national gun control organization founded by billionaire Michael Bloomberg, fired off a press release hours before the Oval Office made public, which means that they knew about this before he even said it. The executive action with a window on what could be coming from the administration. In the statement, the group offered its vision for a proposed new rule by ATF. Quote, enforcement guidance and substantive rulemaking should make clear that anyone who offers a gun for sale at a gun show or pursuant to an advertisement, including online ads, is presumptively engaged in the business of selling guns and needs to run background checks. Once again, that's dependent on state law. If you do it in Connecticut, you have to do background check. Everybody should do background checks. Some states don't have that. But okay, and once again, you can read all this, but let me come out and talk about this. This is Biden pushing his agenda, and now he's in panic mode. And I've repeated this often in videos, that the Bruin decision has these anti-gun folks terrified. You heard I did a video very recently on our illustrious senator from Connecticut in an interview where he kind of balked at what the Supreme Court did concerning Bruin. And he complained about the language that was used in that ruling. Now, let's be honest. Will any of this prevent crime and violence? No. Once again, all of this is going to be dependent on the individual following the law. Criminals don't follow the law. But this is, and we know, at least allegedly, we know that Biden's not in charge. He's got his handlers, and his handlers are the ones who are putting him out there with these audacious statements of somehow that universal background checks is going to change the face of violence in this country, which it will not. And it's unfortunate and disturbing and infuriating that once again, they are ignoring the true problem and going after law-abiding citizens. This is by design. This is not a mistake. This is not some hiccup. This is by default. This is what they're after. Okay? Now, the NSSF had something to say also. And, of course, that basically, you can't do what you're doing through executive order. Like I said, I'm not 100% on the legality of this. If this gets dragged into any kind of legal system, it probably won't stand up. But Biden's going to do it anyway because, once again, to push this through the court system requires money. The government uses our money to defend itself. The plaintiffs have to use their money to push it through. So, once again, this is just another move on the part of this administration and the more larger agenda of gun control, which has nothing to do with crime. But once again, it's something we're going to have to keep an eye on and watch what happens when he actually releases this, because it's very, very aloof language when it comes to who is engaged in the practice of retail gun sales. If you transfer one gun to another individual, they're going to say, oh, you're engaged in retail gun sales. You got to go get an FFL. But that's the game. And here's another step in it. But let me know what you think. As always, you can leave your comments in the comment section below. And as always, any statements of violence or statements that lead to violence will be removed. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you're notified the next time a video goes live. I will see you on the next one. Peace.